on Single Reed Talk with Dr. Lori, we're going to talk about how to hold and sit with the saxophone. First, we want to make sure that when you're sitting in your chair, you're sitting up tall, your back is away from the back of the chair, and you're sitting on the front part of your chair with your feet flat on the floor. Okay? Shoulders are up, and you want to make sure that you're able to get your air through and breathe properly. Posture is everything when you're playing your instrument. Now, I'm going to take the saxophone. First, before we put the saxophone in holding position, I'm going to show how you put your hands on the saxophone. Okay, your right hand is going to go underneath this little curve right here. This is called your little thumb rest. You stick your thumb under there. Okay, and then your fingers are going to go right on top of these buttons right here. 1, 2, 3. So you're going to use these 3 fingers. 1, 2, 3, and it's very important to remember that when you put your fingers on the saxophone, you want to make sure that they sit right in those little pearls right there. The pearls are made so they have a little bit of a groove in them, or a little bit of a curve, and your finger can fit nice and proper in there, and it can maintain that nice curved position that you want to have with your hand. Try to avoid letting your fingers slide, because when they slide forward like that and you put your fingers down, you're more flat fingered when you're putting your fingers down, and sometimes we don't always push down with the proper weight on top of the keys, and then the back part of the keys can come open, and so then you'll leak air a little bit there. Also, when you have your fingers like this, you can't play as fast. Curved is always better. Curved and close, I like to say. So again, make sure your thumb is underneath the little hook, and then 1, 2, 3 on the pearls. Keep them on the pearls, not over the pearls. Keep them right on the pearls in the thick part of your finger. And your pinky is just going to hover around these keys right here on the bottom. Okay? Your right hand is going to come in as such, and you're going to think about this round thumb rest area as a clock. So I like to say I'm going to put my thumb at about 1 o'clock. I'm going to point it at 1 o'clock on the clock. And you'll see how my octave key here is coming out to the side. So if I put my thumb at 1 o'clock, I'm able to just rock forward, keeping my thumb on the saxophone still, keeping it on there, and I'm just going to rock forward, and that enables me to open up the octave key. Okay? If your saxophone register key is not in this place right here, if it's a little bit more to the center, then you may have to adjust it a little bit, but in general most of them are going to be on the side like this. So thumb at 1 o'clock on this little clock right here, and rocks forward, but you keep the thumb pressed on here, so it's just going to rock forward like that, but also maintain where it's supposed to be. Okay, this part here, putting the left hand down, these keys right here are called the palm keys. This can get a little bit tricky when you're playing, because you want to make sure that you don't crush these keys in when you bring your fingers around. Again, you're going to use these 3 fingers, 1, 2, 3, and you're going to put those on these buttons, 1, 2, 3. You'll probably have a little button here too, or like mine is not actually a pearl, it's just another bar. That's not the one you're going to be putting it on. You're going to skip past that. It's going to go on the first big pearl. You're going to skip this second little pearl. That's a different key. And then you go into the next big pearl, and then the next big pearl. So you have 1, 2, 3. So 1, skip the little one, go to the second one, and then the third one is right here. This pinky is going to hover around these keys, basically. Again, we want to maintain that idea of being curved and close. Very important that you stay curved here, because if you're looking at that, if your hand is too much like that, you're more than likely going to crush these keys down, and you're going to have a little trouble getting some notes out if your hand is too close like that. So make sure that you're always thinking a nice sort of C, curved, moving from the knuckle on both hands. So we have move from here and move from here when we play. We want to keep it nice and curved and relaxed, and it's also going to help your arms feel relaxed when you're playing too. Okay, so that's how we put our hands on the saxophone. One thing too, make sure that you don't hook your finger underneath here like this. Okay, I know that the saxophone can be heavy and it can weigh on your neck a little bit when you're playing, but make sure you don't hook your fingers underneath any of these keys to try to hold it up. Okay, we want to have to get used to it. Like I said, it's a little heavy on the neck. Sometimes different types of neck straps will help ease some of that weight on your neck, but we want to make sure we don't hook underneath. Okay, and we want to make sure that we don't ever hold it like this when we're playing too. Even if you're not using this hand, it should always remain with the thumb underneath here and your fingers right here. When I play, I like to actually let these lightly touch here all the time. I don't really bring them far off when I'm playing. I try to just keep them right on those buttons, and that helps again also with technique and making your fingers move nice and quickly, because I'm curved and close and I'm touching the pearls on here. Pinkies, again, not flying out here out in the open, keeping them right here. Okay, so now let's talk about how we're going to hold the saxophone. All right, so if you can see this side of the saxophone, notice that this side of the saxophone is all smooth. So the saxophone was really built for it to be played on the side when you play, okay? So how we do that, let the saxophone hang down on your side, you're sitting tall, and then you're going to just bring the saxophone up to your face like this. Now, if the saxophone neck strap is too low, it's going to come hit you right here on the bottom of your chin. So obviously we need to raise our neck strap, right? So we're going to raise that up until we find a spot where when we put our teeth on the saxophone, they're going to come right onto the top of the mouthpiece. If your saxophone neck strap is too high, it's going to hit you up here in the nose and the upper lip. So we pull it down till we find right where it needs to be, okay? Now, notice that the mouthpiece is a little bit turned to the side. So when you're playing on the side, you're going to have to turn your mouthpiece just slightly. Okay, so it goes here, and you may need to take your neck and just move it slightly to the right. Not a whole bunch. You don't want to crank it way over like this or like that. You want to just a little bit when you're playing. So when you're ring it here, you have the saxophone in a nice position. Again, you'll have to adjust that to yourself when you're playing. The other thing is, you don't want to have this like this and you play like this, okay? That's not going to work. So you have to make sure that you adjust the mouthpiece. It's just a slight turn to the right. Okay. Now the other thing is that sometimes neck straps can slip, so you have to make sure your neck strap is a kind of neck strap that's not going to slip for you. So, because if you constantly have a slipping neck strap, you're going to adjust to that, and you're going to be bringing your bell forward. Okay. We don't want to bring our bell forward like that, because what happens is it puts your bottom lip in the wrong place on the reed, and then it pinches off the sound when you play. So it's really important that you make sure when you bring the saxophone up, you let it hang on your side. You're sitting tall with your shoulders back. Adjust it to the right spot, okay? We don't push it forward, okay? And we don't lean down into it either, okay? It's really important that we don't do that. So again, make sure that you bring saxophone to your face, find a spot where your top teeth can rest very firmly on the top of the mouthpiece. Vinyl in here, and I'm still maintaining my good posture. That's the main thing. You want to maintain good posture when you're playing. This has to all be in line. So when you blow into your saxophone, you have a nice line where your air and you can fill up and you can blow, and you're getting that. Again, posture is everything. Okay, good. And notice I have my fingers on 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Pinkies are right here. I have the horn in my mouth, okay, and my shoulders are straight, and I'm sitting tall when I'm playing, okay? So that's the way to sit with the saxophone on the side. Now, I recommend that all beginners play on the side at first. Now, I would say stay on the side, because normally that's really the best way to get your fingers to be able to get to all the keys, although a lot of people like to play in the middle. A lot of professionals play in the middle, and that's fine because they're professionals. But when you do play in the middle, if it's something you want to do, if you want to switch over later, if that's something you need to do, then you have to do a couple things. Okay, first of all, again, this side of the saxophone here is smooth, right? So this part of the saxophone is going to have to go on the inside of your left leg. Now notice what I did when I played. I'm going to have to turn my mouthpiece back to the center too, and put everything down in the center this time. So notice that, again, I'm on the edge of the chair. I'm taking this part here and I'm putting that against my leg, and this right leg is out at an angle, okay? So I have to do that in order to sit tall, okay? When I'm playing, I have to be able to do that, so I'm sitting tall, and I'm not getting this hand messed up by having this leg in too close. So if you sit like this, obviously what's happening here? Your right hand can't move properly, can't get down to these keys because you have your legs front like that, they're all together, and you can't get to it. So this is really important to make sure that this leg gets out of the way so that this hand can move properly when you're playing. Okay, that's the main thing that it gets to be a problem when you play in the middle, and when you're still maybe growing, and if you have a short torso, then it's really difficult to try to get that. So try not to do that. Also, I see a lot of kids sometimes will do this. They'll hold the saxophone in their knees like that, because again, it takes some of the weight off. You don't want to do that, and to make sure that all the weight's going to be on the neck. The other thing that you don't want to do is sit back in your chair and let the saxophone rest on the chair. Okay, so what that does is most of the time it will not hit your mouth in the right place. It'll either hit you below your mouth or above your mouth. And in my case, it hits me right in the nose. And so in order for me to play the saxophone, I'd have to go like that. Okay, and that's not a good position to be in either. You don't want to crank up like that. Okay, so we want to make sure we don't do that. We don't put the saxophone on the chair when you play. Okay, so again, very important though, no matter how you decide to sit when you're playing the saxophone, you want to make sure that the right hand is free to get these right here. Left hand usually is not obscured by either way that you sit, but you also want to maintain the nice curved close position over the fingers right here and such. If you sit in the middle, which I wouldn't recommend until you're older, put right here against the leg. Make sure that the saxophone is not hitting your chair. You sit up close, you put right here on your leg, get this leg out of the way, and then you get it in the right position, okay? Remember, you have to make sure that the neck strap, or the neck and the mouthpiece are turned just a little bit so that you have it more straight on. The idea is, no matter how you sit, you wanna make sure that you're not turning your head or turning your body or lowering it or changing your posture in any way. You wanna make sure you always maintain that good posture when you're playing, okay? So you have this, okay? Again, I would recommend that beginners especially start with the saxophone on the side, okay? You let the neck hold the weight of the saxophone, okay? You bring the saxophone slowly to your face. Don't do it too fast because you can bonk your lip and it hurts a lot. So bring the saxophone up. Make sure that you have the right height. Just turn your mouthpiece slightly to the right, just slightly, so you can still maintain your head in the right position. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And I feel very comfortable, and my right hand has all that movement, and it doesn't feel constricted at all because my leg is not shoving into this, and so I have lots of nice movement in my fingers here. Okay, so that's what you do when you're playing. The main thing is just to remember that you always want to make sure that you're sitting tall and that you have everything lined up. That's really important. Make sure everything is lined up so that we can play properly. Okay, that's how you sit and hold the saxophone. So I'll see you the next time.